Hello and welcome to the Hobby Hoarders podcast. I am your host Sam, and I am joined, as always, by a man who needs no introduction because he's been at the top of the MI5's Most Wanted for years, Matt Geary.
Like, yay. Been a while, Sam. Not done this for
It
a few
has.
weeks.
Partially just because of my bad time management, and well, I don't know why I'm saying partly entirely because of that. Basically, what's been happening is one, I've been sick, but two, I've just been doing loads and loads of travel for work, which has been so detrimental to hobbying. And I basically haven't done any hobbying at all, which is worrying considering I've got an event coming up this weekend, not this weekend, next weekend, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, have you ever had a long period where you've done no hobbying, not sorting your cards, not sorting your miniatures, nothing? And how do you feel about it?
Have you not done anything for your channel? Have you not done anything?
I've done nothing. I've done absolutely nothing. I haven't built a single model. I haven't done anything. And this weekend was meant to be the first weekend where I was finally good to go. I had time for myself. I was going to either do some on the loft and get a video recorded. But then what ended up happening is I ended up getting really ill.
What did you? What's
got the
it?
stuff
Like
that
COVID
was
or something? Was it?
just the stuff that was going around. I took several COVID tests, but the funny thing is I was given I started feeling unwell on like the Wednesday night. On the Thursday, no, yeah, on the Thursday, I was giving my first open presentation in front of well, I was told it was 500 people. It turned only to be 280. There was 500 people I ended up presenting to, but at the time, in a single room, there was only 280, which I felt decidedly cheated by. But yeah, I felt so ill the night before, and Claire was like, "Is it nerves?" And I was like, "I don't think so." So I was chugging like cold and flu medicine just to get me through the day, and then I just got iller and iller.
Oh, no.
And I don't know about you, but I get really mad when I'm ill at the weekend. Like I feel cheated.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah,
When it comes to holidays.
I've had sort of, I've had times where I've just done nothing. Like I suppose I haven't done anything in the last 3 weeks. I think the last thing I did was just before being 3 weeks ago. No, I suppose yeah. Did play Blackstone Fortress not last week but the week before that at my
Oh,
parents'
nice.
house. Because we have like a thing every month where we sort of kind of carry on like a campaign sort of thing. But the week before that, I had a game of Blood Bowl, and I managed to 90% finish my team, painted wise and stuff. So I've got all the main colors on. I've got them
Nice.
based. I've got most of the highlights on. I just need to sort of kind of do a few more sort of kind of layers of sports for the red armor. So I go for dark red to sort of kind of like an orange color and stuff, so it sort of brings it out more and stuff. But so yeah, they're pretty much tabletop ready. I've put grass on like 4 of them and stuff. I've got the dirt on the other ones and stuff, so I just need to add a bit more of that. So I've done that, which is good. And I won 3-0. I am currently at the top of the table, though that being said,
When you come at the king, you better not miss.
yeah, well, the Skaven player, guy called Craig, he is a game behind. So he's got dwarves today, not today, sorry, dwarves this coming week. So I'm kind of hoping he'll get beaten or drawn with. If he draws, then that hopefully means that I'll stay at the top of the table because I've got a better score difference than he does. If he loses, then I definitely stay at the top of the table. If he wins, then
Is that really how you want to win, Matt? Is that how you want to win?
if he wins, then yeah, he's going to meet me at the top. He's going to beat me at the top of the table, which pretty much means I have to beat the dwarves who he's playing, and then I have to beat a goblin team. Which I think I'll be all right to beat, but it's just going to cause me a lot of damage because that's what they do, and I've got quite an expensive team at the
Have
minute.
you played the goblins once before? I feel like
yeah,
you
no,
did, and it went really badly for the other guy.
Yeah, well, I've got a I've played. There's 2 goblin teams in the league, so and they both aren't sort of. Actually, one of them's not doing too badly, I guess. He's won like 2 games, lost 3, drawn 2. I think, or something like that. But they just do a lot of damage, so they don't score a lot, but they hurt you. And my team is one of the most the best valued ones. So I've got like I just bought an ogre recently, and I've got sort of some guys with some good skills and things like that, and I don't really want them getting hurt because I kind of want to keep them sort of,
When you say they do damage, is it emotional damage
yeah,
that
well,
they
you
do?
do emotional damage, so you when you lose a guy that you like. Though that being said, it was quite amusing. The game that I played, I won the Nurgle team, who I was worrying about because Nurgle are horrible because
All the modifiers
there's
they put on you.
all
Yeah.
the modifiers and stuff. So it's like minus you can't block them, or you can't block the bloaters unless you roll a dice, and if you get a 1 you can't block them. It's just, so I had a new ogre, so he had to roll a bonehead roll, which means to see if he would actually do anything, and then
He's dumb. Yeah.
and then he'd have to do it again to see if he could block these guys and stuff. But the first hit was a casualty. The first hit of the game was a casualty, and the first casualty was a death, and then he failed his regeneration roll. So it was just like one of his bloaters was killed first game, and it pretty much went downhill from there. I pretty much I stayed away from him as much as I could. I did some, because he had a certain way. He always like stacked his bloaters heavily in the middle, which means there was nobody on the wings, and I was just running through his guys in the wings and stuff, even his pestigores.
Their movement's very low as well, isn't it?
Low
the
movement.
pestigores have got decent.
He's got two. He has 2 pestigores, and there's 1 on each wing and stuff, which wasn't too bad. But
their defense is low, but their attack's high.
Yeah,
if I vaguely remember.
Yeah, so he's got like horns and stuff, so they're not bad. But he just didn't. He had some really bad dice rolls, to be honest, to the point where he started using my dice because his dice were just getting 1s and stuff, and he lost 3-0. And it was just literally, man. And like they're horrible. Like he had called Beast of Nurgle, I think, or sort of, I think they're called Beast of Nurgle or something. Whatever,
like puppy things.
Whatever their equivalent of their ogre, and he's pretty nasty. But it was just like, and I even forgot to make him roll for his stupidity roll and stuff like that. But it was just sort of because everything was quite slow. If I got a guy up, if his pestigore on that side was down, because he only had 2 of them, so I'd basically wait one side, put everything on one side, smash through, that pestigore would go down, and then everything else he had a movement of like 4 or something like that. So I just put a guy, towards it, and he was not catching him and stuff, so he just walked in. So I
remember every time you score in Blood Bowl, you reset the lines.
Yeah, you reset the lines. Yeah.
So what, he didn't learn from any of the.
Well, no, because he just sort of, because he's not new to the game, because we've been playing it for years and stuff. It's just he's not played in a while and stuff. It's a new team for him and things. It's just sort of, and I think there's this misconception that in Blood Bowl that you just need to smash face. And you just push everything up to the front. Like there's a player called Josh he's a Wood Elf player. He frustrates me so when I watch him play and stuff, because he's got a Wood Elf team and he plays it like he's got a bash team, so he just sticks everything in the front line and then goes and blocks. And it was like he was playing my brother, and my brother was beating him 2-0 at this point in time, and it was second half, and he got the ball and he charged his guy down the left flank. There was a massive gap. I was like, all right, that's not too bad. But he put it right beside the sidelines, and it was just like, man, you're
into the audience.
You're gonna go straight into the spectators and stuff if you don't watch it. And then instead of putting his guys around the guy with the ball, he blitzed somebody instead and then didn't move anything else. And it was just like, oh my god, man, you've just left that guy and you're against another elf team, and his movement is like 7 and 8, so he's just going to go straight on you. So he literally just went straight on him. All he needed was a push. He got pushed and he was out into the crowd, and that was it. And I was just like, oh dude. And then he just lined his guys up, and it's just like, man, when you're against fast teams, as much as you want to smash face, you can't one because you're an elf. So you just need to layer your defense. You need to have 3 lines of defense, even if it's in the center, so you can go out to the sides if they go round their thing. So that's it.
But Matt, who are you to tell him how the game should or shouldn't be played? Now that'd be an excellent segue, except it's not the point for segueing quite yet.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah.
Can you upgrade your speed? I can't remember when you
Yeah, well,
upgraded.
you get
I
sort of
seem to
you
remember
get
playing
start.
against the rats, and the rats had like a gutter runner who had like 2 additional movement speed, and he was like movement stupid. He
Oh
could
yeah,
move across the
they've got
board.
like movement 9 or something ridiculous like that. Gutter runners. That's why the guy Craig, he's got Skaven, and they're squishy, but they've all got like a movement of like 7. Bar the gutter runners, which I think have a movement of like 9, which is ridiculous.
So good.
It's like ridiculous. So it's like they, in theory, can do 1 turn touchdowns if the ball lands properly and stuff. And they just like he uses his gutter runners just like he just pushes them right up into your face straight away and stuff. So you have to defend in depth with them. If you push everything to the front, he just breaks through and you're fucked. There's no getting back to him and stuff. So you have to have defense and depth with them and stuff. So it's like my brother played him, and initially my brother just went, "Oh, these guys are quite squishy," so he stuck everything in the front, and then he just broke through, and then he scored. And then my brother learned very quickly that wasn't going to do that and stuff because they're squishy. He's just like, right, well, I'm just going to put them in depth. So he put his stuff in depth, and he managed to sort of kind of draw at one point in time, and then sadly got another score against them. But it was just like it was a very close one when he realized how to deal with them and stuff. So that's it. But currently at the top of the table, which makes me happy. I just want to stay there. So yeah.
How many people are there? 8?
There were originally 11 of us. There are active 9 of us now. One had to leave because he just had a kid, and the other one is a tinfoil hat wearing crazy who initially wasn't going. He's not going to play, I don't think, anyway. But yeah, he got a bit frustrated and stopped playing early on. So we just kind of
It's one of those difficult things because you want to give time for people. Because whenever I organize like Dreadball ones online or Vanguard or any of the sort of games online, you want to give people enough time to play a game. And yeah, in a week something could come up, but in 2 weeks, the problem is as soon as they delay it, it just has such a big cascade.
Well, that's it.
One way I got around it.
Go on, sorry.
Oh, one way I got around it is in one of the latest leagues. I pre-planned every match, so instead of being swished, you basically round robined, so you could play your matches in any order, and it worked to a certain point. But then what you had is the people that had played a couple of games were playing all their games and just shooting ahead.
Yeah,
and it sort of worked.
So we have it where it's round robin, but it's all the games. So all the games are fixed. So you have all your matches are drawn at the start, so you know who you're playing each week. And we set a 2-week limit, so we said like you've got 2 weeks to play your game, and then it was just so initially at the start it was fine. Everybody was getting within the 2 weeks. Everybody was doing it. I generally get mine straight away as soon as it's my game. I'm on the person who's doing it. Let's play. Let's get it done sort of straight away and stuff. But then we had sort of like 2 culprits. My Russell, the guy I play, my mate, is because he can only have certain days. He can only have like Wednesdays because he's got kids and stuff like that. And he can only do like a Saturdays in person. Sorry, he can do Wednesdays online and stuff, or Saturdays in person sort of thing. So he's hard to get. And then there's Craig, not the Craig dwarf player, and because he works away a lot, he's just impossible to tie down. So he played.
He can't take his computer with him or anything like that.
See, yeah, because he's a joiner and stuff. So he's a joiner. So he just like he was making like McDonald's and stuff. So we were doing great, and then it came to the 2 people who are notoriously bad at sort of kind of organizing games, and I browbeat everybody, so I'm on the WhatsApp chat making sure everybody's getting their games in and on time and stuff. And they were just like they did like a part of a game after 2 weeks, and then said we're going to finish it off next week. And I said, yeah, but you've got a 2-week limit. And then they were all like, yeah, well, and then one of the other guys said, no, it's just fun. Let them have another week. And I was like, fine. So they had another week, and then they didn't finish it, and that week turned into the fourth week. And on the fourth week, I just put my foot down, and I was like, no, not happening and stuff. You either play this week, or it's staying as the score it was at that time. So Craig, who knew he couldn't do it, just went, right, okay, fine. He conceded, and it was sort of 1-0 victory by Russell. But then, amusingly, because I had a bit of a rant on the page, and I said, look, I appreciate it's a fun game, but as soon as people start having lots of time off, it has a knock-on effect to everybody else. And then Craig, the Skaven player, who had initially said, oh, it's only a bit of fun and stuff like that, he started moaning because he wasn't getting any games. And so I copy and pasted his, like, it's just a bit of fun sort of thing, and put it back into the chat so he knew. But it's like, yeah. So next season, our second season, which you're more than welcome to join, Sam, if you want to.
I'm bad at it. I'm not good at Blood Bowl. It's too long. I don't understand how you can stay focused on it with like confirmed ADHD. But I guess maybe it's because you get the focused version of ADHD for like that game, whereas I'm like, oh god, this is taking so long.
What, the game, or
we've had this
the game, or the league?
Oh no, I love leagues.
Yeah.
I love leagues. I am a great player to have in a league because I like to write fluff. I like to do like you doing your newsletter thing. Love that. Like, I would love to just read all your newsletters. I'd be writing them with you. So I'm good at that. But just Blood Bowl itself. Have you played Blitz Bowl?
Yeah.
Did you not love Blitz Bowl?
I like Blood Bowl. It's just kind of like chess. The thing is, and to be honest,
Blitz Bowl.
Blood Bowl.
Wait, are we talking about Blitz Bowl?
Yeah, Blitz Bowl, which is
not Dread Ball.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to wave the flag of Dread Ball.
Yeah.
Simplified. You got 5 players.
Yeah.
You've got. I love that even if Blood Bowl, even if you just added the Blitz Bowl event card deck, I think that would make it a much better game. Where it's like, oh, if you do 2 blocks in the game.
No, it's not. The thing is, it's only long. Like, granted, there are some long games, especially when you play that online. And me and my brother and some of the other guys, like, they really think about their moves and stuff. So it can last anywhere between, like, some games will last 8 hours. So you'll have like 4 hours online. Yeah, that's seriously. You'll have ones that are online where people are really thinking. I guarantee you, when me and my brother play, it'll take ages because we'll both be sat there fucking thinking move over and rethinking moves and stuff like that, which is fine for us. But when I play live, when I play in person, it doesn't last because you've got a time limit because Element Games closes and stuff. So
it's still like 3 hours, though, isn't it?
3 hours. That's not to bear in mind. That's like a game of 40k. You usually play about 3
but
hours.
A lot more happens in 40k.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like a lot can happen in Blood Bowl and stuff. Like, it doesn't bore me in any way, shape, or form. Like, I get really, like, I sit there and watch other people playing it and stuff. I love it. I think, just the idea, because the way the dice just fuck people over and stuff, and it's just like, and there's lots of stuff going on all the time, and I don't find it boring in any way, shape, or form and stuff. And I think 3 hours for a game, I think, is reasonable. So I say, like, second season, everybody's going to have a 2-week minimum. I may allow a discretionary 1 week, because if we do it at the start of the year, it might be like holidays and stuff like that, people going on holidays and things. So I say you've got 1 week where you can kind of shy off and say, look, I need something else because something's happening. But if you can't do it after that, that's it. It's literally you concede, or if you've already played half of your game, the score stays as it is and stuff, and that's going to be that's going to be the line.
That's one thing I don't like in games, though, and tournaments as well, is how do you decide what a concede or how much it's worth in terms of experience, in terms of win-losses. For some team builds, it could be devastating. Like a bashy team is better in the late game of a league. In Dread Ball, I haven't played enough Blood Bowl. I think I've played in maybe 5 tournaments of 5 leagues and 2 tournaments for Blood Bowl, so I've got basically no experience. I couldn't really tell you about how it works there. Confirm or deny, that's absolutely cool. But in Dread Ball, certainly, and in Guild Ball, you need the late phase, because that's when the bashy teams come into their own, because they're getting the experience by beating the crap out of people, which is then getting them up to par with the rest of the people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's similar-ish. But I think, like, you conceding, you get points. So in our league, if you concede a game, the other person, the person who was on the the non-conceding,
Losing side.
the winning side, because you
The winning
concede,
side.
the winning side, they get 2 MVPs, so that's 8 star player points. 2 MVPs, which go to 2 random players, so that's 2 players. You get 4 star player points each. You get a D6 worth of gold times 10,000, so you can get 60,000 gold. And that's it. Yeah, or you get a 1-0 win. You get a 1-0 win as well. So you get,
But in Blood Bowl, is it not actions that get you experience?
yeah. So if you pass the ball, you get a point. If you cause a casualty, you get 2 points. If you cause a touchdown, you get 3 points. If you get there's lots of little things where you sort of kind of you do, but that's why you get the 2 MVPs, because it makes up for some of the lost star player points and stuff. But it is what it is and stuff. So you have to have some sort of line in the sand to say. Now, in theory, you can have it where if somebody concedes, members of the team leave, so it sort of dissuades people from conceding games. But because we're sort of trying to make it not too draconian, it's just like it's a 1-0 on the other
Wait,
person.
so that you would roll a dice for each of their players to see if their players quit for the shame?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so you can have that as well. Like, so if you really, so if you want to make the Blood Bowl League more sort of kind of stringent and stuff, you can literally say it has to be every week. If you concede, then you got to roll for your players to see if they leave or not. And you also can reduce the amount of time, so you have a certain amount of time. So in tournaments, they have like a 2-hour time limit, and that's it. You have 2 hours to play the game, which is an hour a piece to do it, and that's it. So you're literally, I'm not even sure how many you got. How many turns have you got? 8 turns. 8 turns in a game. How's this math going to work? So you used to say we got.
But how does it work in terms of, let's say one person runs out of time? Because I know in 40k you can't respond to your opponent's actions apart from like rolling defense dice.
Yeah, so that's it.
How does it work in Blood Bowl? Is it the same thing?
It's
You just get run of the field?
Yeah, it's the same thing. You can't make any moves. You can't make any blocks. You can defend. And there's no defense in Blood Bowl. You literally just sort of
roll dice.
you just sort of you get blocked or you don't get blocked, sort of thing. But you can't do anything. They carry on, and that's it. And there's times where people sort of have given up their time to sort of help other people and stuff. And I think 2 hours maybe a tad too sort of short for I think 3 hours is ideal for a Blood Bowl game. If you can't do it in 3 hours, then you either I understand why you would spend longer, because you really want to think about it and stuff like that. And there's lots of different options and lots of things you can do, because there's lots of like Craig, who plays the Skaven, he does really weird stuff. Like he'll intentionally move guys in the way and then block somebody because it causes a chain push, and that chain push then pushes the ball forward, which means he can use that ball forward. He can get an extra space of movement to get a thing. So he does, it's really the way he thinks about it and stuff. That's why he's obviously near the top. Currently second to me in first, but that's why he hasn't lost any games, because he does stuff like that. So it's like if he puts guys here, then he blocks that, then that person, or if he does this and you put these guys here, then he change pushes and that pushes the guy off the pitch and stuff like that. And they do.
You would absolutely love. There's a team called the Pseudo Chan in Dreadball where they're all pretty weak physically, but they're all like really powerful. Was it
Psychers?
Not telepaths? Telekinetics.
Okay, right, yeah.
So what you can do is you can push opponents, which is what most people do. They'll like push the opponent off the goal mark so you can like try and score. Perfectly fine way of doing it, but that's not the real way you do it. The real way you do it is you push your opponents, so it means that when your character's doing something, your opponent is suddenly doing a foul, so they get sent off. Or even better, you push your own players, because if you push someone onto the ball, they can instantly try and like pick up the ball. And it's stuff like you can move the ball during your opponent's turn and stuff like that, so you can really, really mess with people. I reckon your friend would like that team.
Yeah. So, well, that thing is that is apparently high level sort of Blood Bowl players. They're very much into doing things like that. Like they'll do sort of like there's a lot to it. Like I've even got a playbook. Me and my brother have got playbooks, so I've got like a playbook sort of I've got different chevron defenses, a strong right defense, sort of strong right attack and stuff like that. So if you really want to sort of push hard on somebody, you do that. It's a bit of a risk, but then you've got certain ways to defend against different teams and things like that. So yeah, so there's a lot to it, and I'm enjoying it. It's just I'm not gonna get my game for another month, I don't think, because
That's over 2 weeks. What do you mean? That's over 2 weeks?
It is, yeah. Well, that's it. And I've told them. I said them. Because everybody else is behind. It's had a knock-on effect. And I said I'm out of action for 3 weeks. If we had done it in time, I would be playing my brother at Christmas, so we could play in person at Christmas. But because everybody else has been delayed, it's knocked on, and so I can't play him at that time. So I'm just like, well,
It's literally the two players that are waiting to play. Now you need to play someone else for you then to be able to play your brother.
Yeah, pretty much. So it's just so I've got 2 games before I play my brother.
Like I said, it's worth considering maybe for next time trying the method we did because it worked really well. You pre-plan all the matches, and then it's like as long as you're playing your second match, it doesn't matter who, as long as that person's also done second, and it works perfectly as long as you've got an even number of players. Obviously, if you've got an odd number of players, everything's screwed. So like these two people play their first matches, and these two people play their first matches, so then they just switch. But then the other 6 people are still available to play their matches in any order.
Problem you have with that is if you have I suppose if 2 people can't play their the thing is it's generally just one person who causes the delay, and that leaves one person who wants to play a game who can't. And then the other
But
ones
that person could play someone else. It would.
but
It's only
always going to leave
the
one.
last two.
It's always
Yeah.
going to leave one person out and stuff. So you're gonna have one person who can't play, and then you're gonna have the other person who can't sort of play a game because everybody
The
else.
number of opportunities for this person that the lagger that we all know, the lagger has 5 different opportunities during a week to play a game. So they have more opportunity. Do you see what I'm saying? Like that person should be compatible with at least one person, so they get to choose first, and they go, well, I can do Wednesday, and then any of these people it might be, oh well, we can both do Wednesday. What time you can do? Does that make sense? Like there's more opportunities for them to play the game, so less excuses.
Yeah, well, I have to look into it. It's just the way sort of we do it on tour play and stuff. So it generally it rolls all your games at the start. So you've got a list of each game that's coming up, and then it gives you all your stats against that team, and so you can sort of kind of organize in advance and stuff. We were debating just playing games, carrying on playing games, but obviously, as much as you get inducements and stuff, if your team level's lower than the other person, you get sort of underdog status, so you get you can buy sort of star players and things like that, but it's not as good as having a good skilled team and stuff, so you kind of don't want somebody who's really lagging behind and stuff, because they're going to get absolutely reeled and stuff. That being said, you can carry your team over to the next season. Obviously, you've only got a certain amount of money to spend, so you may have to fire some of the guys to sort of make up the money, but
and does the cost of a skilled player go up?
Yeah, so every time you get a skill, the price of that player goes up. So I've got some expensive players now, because I've got some like a really good thrower, really good catcher, and some good blitzers and stuff like that, and they're quite expensive because they've gone up in value. Plus, a lot of my linemen have got block now, which is a very annoying thing to have, because it just means it's one less dice, one less side of the dice to be used against you when they're trying to knock you over and stuff. That's why everybody hates dwarf teams, because dwarf teams just get block. Everybody gets block, and they all get sort of like block. And if you give them guard as well, then it's they're just a night. They're such a hard team to get past. They're just so annoying.
Dwarves in Dreadball have a rule called sturdy, which means that they can't be knocked over unless they're like properly knocked out, which is just brutal. So
so everybody, if you go in the Blood Bowl sort of kind of groups and stuff, there's they always moan about the same things. They always moan about dwarf teams. They always moan about stalling, and those are the 2 things. Oh, sorry, there's 3 things. Dwarf teams, stalling, and fouling. They're constantly moaning about stuff like that because
it's great.
Yeah, it's like dwarf teams are obnoxious, but they just are what they are and stuff. And you just have to know how to deal with them and stuff.
Are they not like they're paired with stalling though? Because dwarf teams often stall.
Yeah.
So it's like 2 nitpicks combined.
Yeah. See, stalling is literally just because if I don't know how when you would stall. If you are winning, if you're winning and you've got the ball, you would stall because that gives the other person less time to get the ball back and score,
Yeah.
and it annoys people so much. It's just like the stalling, and it's unfortunately a legitimate tactic. You can't just do it. The issue is there is certain things that can happen, like there's like a prayers to nuffle thing where people throw rocks at the person who's stalling and stuff, but it's not. There's no real reason why you wouldn't do it. Like we tend to not do it. I don't think it's not out of choice, just because you kind of want to get as many scores and beat up as many people as possible, so you can get sort of more points and
I
stuff like
think some teams are designed for that. Like an elf team is
that.
designed for scoring as many goals as possible as quickly as possible,
Yeah,
whereas a dwarf team you've just got to win by 1 point to win the game.
yeah, yeah.
And it's a problem I've always had with those kind of games. This Guild Ball, Dread Ball, that disparity can become quite significant, especially in leagues. Because the teams that are based on scoring, there seems to be so many points up for grabs for scoring teams, catching, throwing, touchdowns. So the scores shoot ahead, whereas a team like Orcs, which is about like smashing and stuff, it's a lot harder to kill a player. So their teams end up lagging behind on skill. It'd be really interesting to like see all the NAF data, because I'm sure you could be able to create some really cool graphs on that. Are you guys NAF registered or?
One of them is like we're not, because we've only just started playing properly and stuff. One because of the tournaments and things, but yeah. So we're gonna like the the tour play gives you like loads of like stats for your guys. It gives you all the best players, all the best teams, tells you sort of everything. It shows you how good you are versus against another team and stuff like that every time you play, and gives you these little bar graphs and stuff to show you what's going on, which is really cool. Like I love that site. It's so addictive. It's like it's fantasy, it's proper fantasy football, instead of like this, actually using proper football, it's fantasy football, and it's yeah, I love it and stuff. So it's a game I really enjoy. So I'm looking forward, one, hopefully to winning, and two, to
Winning the game or winning the entire league?
winning the league. Winning the league.
Shoot for the stars, because then even if you fail, you land on the moon. Wait,
Yeah.
that's not the right thing.
I've got one draw. That's the problem. So even if I win all my games, I still have to play Craig. Craig's my last game, and he's the Skaven player, and I would need to win against him, because a draw would mean I would have 2 draws. Or okay, if he draws or loses any of these games he plays, which is unlikely because he's quite good, then fine, it's not as big an issue. But the last game I need to win, because if I don't win, then he wins the league, and I know he knows that and stuff. So if it comes down to that last game, then you will see stalling and you will see stuff like that, because he will do it simply because he knows, well, I just need to survive here. I just need a draw. So even if he, so I need to get ahead and do it. So I'm gonna have to do some special stuff. Problem is, Skaven are just a nightmare, and he's especially Skaven that are skilled, and he's gonna have a load of guys with dodge, and so everybody's moving out of their fucking tackle zones easily and stuff, and it's just gonna be hard. And I'm not sure if he's gonna have enough money for a rat ogre, and because my team's quite expensive at the minute, he may even get inducements as well and stuff. So he's gonna, on top of being a stupidly fast team, he's going to have these really high level adjustments and stuff. So
I mean, that is a valid tactic, though. Some people do try and keep their cost as low as possible, and then they could buy inducements, and they because they're only upgrading where they want to, and it's another sneaky thing.
Well,
but is it wrong? Well, that's a great question. It takes us beautifully into today's topic, which is there a right and wrong way to play? Rules is written raw, or just against the spirit of it. So I think stalling's a big one in Blood Bowl, isn't it?
Yeah.
So stalling, for anyone that doesn't know it, is you surround the player, and correct me if I'm wrong, you surround the player with other players, and then just take your time as you walk up the pitch without basically doing anything to waste your opponent's turn counter, so that you're then in position to score and hopefully win the game without giving them a chance. Is that vaguely right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just being it was obnoxious. It's just not illegal. Now, the reason this topic is coming up, because myself and Sam, when he's not been forgetting about podcasts and stuff, have been playing some Age of Empires 4 and stuff. Now, as Sam was talking big about his ability at Age of Empires.
Empires 2 #pro.
Age of Empires 2. So we took him on the Age of Empires 4, and we started off.
Times have changed.
We started off playing. Now me and my brother play Age of Empires 4 a lot. Now we're not great at
For anyone that doesn't know Age of Empires, basically it's a real-time strategy, which basically means that you're doing everything at the same time. It's not a turn-based game. It's not like Total War or anything like that. You start off with a little village. You have little villagers. The villagers have to mine resources, whether that's gold, stone, wood. So you've got to choose where you're going to put your assets into it. And basically you get that stuff. You buy soldiers, but you also progress through ages. There's 4 ages. I probably left number 1 once.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
So we started off, and I said, so in my mind, Sam's never played the game. So I said, like, why don't we have a truce and stuff? You've got half an hour. Like, me and my brother generally have an hour because we like building up big bases and stuff like that. But in half an hour, you can get the grips with the game, build some stuff and things, and then we can sort of do our thing. Sam was like, okay. So we did it, and like I was very aware that he wasn't doing very much, and I was playing the Chinese at the time, and the Chinese.
Excuse me, I was doing loads. So basically, it tells you when you've changed ages, and Matt's was flying through ages, and mine hadn't changed.
Yeah, and I can see, and I can also see because using the Chinese, I usually play the English or the Chinese, and sometimes the Ottomans, but I could see using the Chinese how many civilians he had, how many villagers he had, and I kept on checking on it, and I was thinking they were going up, but like he had like 5 throughout the entire game, and I was just like,
you were saying that though, that it was wrong though. So clearly the Chinese can't see everything. What are the rules regarding that? Because I had 20 of them when you kept saying I had 5, and I was like,
maybe I couldn't see
I don't have 5. So
maybe it's only the ones who were doing stuff. I don't know. Maybe I had a load of idols or something, but it was just like I could only see.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's the idle ones that you can see.
Yeah. Whatever it was, but you didn't have a lot, and and I was like, I'd literally filled up. I had this like the full half of the entire, we'll say, board, the map. I had like full. I had 3 massive bases. I cut through in the center. I had a center base, a left base, a right base. I had walls. I had I had the whole thing ready for Sam to sort of kind of do some attack, and it didn't come. And half an hour went, and I left it, and I went, I'm just going to carry on building stuff because I like building things.
Did we have AI in that particular
one?
No,
not when there's no. So it just sort of carried on, and then it got to like just before the hour, and I was like. So I sent some guys around just to see what he was doing, and he built this. He got this little, because it was a thing called hideout. So
very pretty.
He got this little pretty sort of kind of like palisade wall thing going on around this little sort of nook he had, and he was saying to me, "Oh, I'm nearly out of resources in this area," and I was like, "Dude, I have mined everything on my half of the board," and I was like, and he's sitting there in this little groove. I'm maxing out in gold, maxing out in food, maxing out in everything, and he's just like, "I've got 10,000 gold," and I'm like, "This."
I was ruling in it.
Yeah, and he's like, I've got loads of gold. I got loads of gold and stuff. And I was like, but you've only just run out of the stuff in your base, and there's loads around the base. So I sent some guys around, and I started building stuff around, and then I just put him out of his misery. It was just like literally sort of this thing, and I think he thought he was being smart because he'd hidden all these elephants, in these towers. And I said that would have worked had I been attacking with a few guys, but because the
equivalent army,
yeah, but the population limit was at 1,000, so I attacked him with 500. Well, it wasn't 500 because I had about 300 sort of 300 economic units, but like 600 army and stuff, 300 each side. Boom! It didn't last very long, so we decided. He says, "No, that's not how you play a game. You play it properly by, you get some, you mine your resources."
So what he's not telling you is the fact that he'd started off with like 5,000 of every resource, which is never how I ever played. The way I'm used to playing it is you start with absolutely nothing, and that's all you can do. Not that it made any difference, because yes, as Matt is about to tell you, we then played using what would ostensibly be my rules. Still didn't go very well.
I killed the 2 AI and then killed Sam, and and then we did it again where I was like, are you sure you don't want to sort of do it where you've got 1-on-1 and you we you can have a bit of time to build and stuff. No, that's not how you play a game. That's not the right way to play. And he said, and this is how this came up, because you said this isn't the right way to, this isn't how the game's meant to be played. This isn't the right way to play the game and stuff. And I was just like, well, it is, but
it's one of those things, isn't it? That like the rule you're talking about didn't exist in Age of Empires 2, but it must have been used. Other people, did you play like that in Age of Empires 2?
Yeah, we always had treaties. You could have treaties in Age of Empires 2.
You couldn't.
You could.
You couldn't.
You could.
I'll put money on this. You couldn't.
Well, Sam, you'll see some videos, because we used to stream Age of Empires 2. And
you used to stream Age of Empires 2?
Yeah, in lockdown.
Wow,
in lockdown,
nice.
we were streaming Age of Empires 2, and you could have treaties.
Let's have a look. Let's have a look. 2013. Is it really that young?
And bear in mind, all of these games can be modded. Like, so bear in mind the treaty in Age of Empires.
I didn't have anything like that.
It's a mod.
The time I'm playing this was installed by a floppy disk.
Yeah.
Like we had LAN parties. Like we didn't have. Well, I mean, I was gonna say we didn't have broadband. Fuck, we didn't have dial-up.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just like, and it was like, this isn't the way to play it. And I was like, that's an interesting point, because how do you play a game, any game, tabletop game and stuff? So how is that? So what differentiates between something, how it should be played? So if it's written down, there's no deviation whatsoever. So if the rule book is as it is, there's no deviation, irrespective of mistakes and stuff like that. You play by the rules, or do you bend rules and change things to suit?
I think it's an interesting one, isn't it? Especially when it's adaptive like that. So treaties, as far as I know, were not part of the game at the beginning. When you first installed Age of Empires 2, I didn't have any mods. I didn't have. We've established that I was a pauper compared to your castle growing up. We didn't have anything like that. We literally, the only way you could play games was with a cable plugged between two physical computers. So trees for me didn't exist, and now they do. So clearly, I reckon what happened is people started off either making a mod, or they just said to each other, like you did. You said, "Oh, let's have 30 minutes just build up." And I think that is the way the game's evolved. Did you play? Of course, you played Among Us. We've played Among Us a couple of times together. So in Among Us, basically, someone is the monster going around trying to eat everyone else. I think it's a bit of a dated reference. It came and it burned from both ends, really bright, didn't it?
Yeah.
But in that, people very quickly came up with new games where, like, you would play like hide and seek. So the monster would tell everyone that they were the monster, stay in the base, count to, I don't know, a minute, and then run out and kill people. And then that got added to the game.
Yeah, but
so it's an interesting point.
There's lots of mods to it. Now you can do all kinds of things. I know, like Age of Empires, like we've all, me and my brother have always, simply because I'm not good at, even when we were playing against the AI, and we're playing sort of intermediate AIs and stuff, and granted, they're not great, and I did beat them quite easily, but they panicked me because they were both attacking me at one time and stuff at the same time, and my sort of kind of build order was getting completely knocked out of sync because I was trying to build guys to defend off these things, which messed off with my resources and stuff like that. So I'm not very good at this. Now, if you watch online play, and I appreciate this is we should be talking about board games, but it sort of ties in with what we're going to talk about. But there's a guy called Aussie Drongo who does a lot of stuff on YouTube, and I watch a lot of the competitive Age of Empires play, and all the competitive Age of Empires play is 1v1. You have a map, and it's generally a set map. There's no randomness. Everybody knows what map they're going to play, so they know the map, and then they basically have at it, and it's literally a case of using the best civilization and having certain timings for each thing. And they one thing that really frustrates me is they don't build nice bases. They just fire. They'll be buildings. They'll just be sitting there chopping wood, and then they'll just build a house right beside it. It's like, oh my god, what are you doing? And then they just sort of fire things up everywhere, and there's no sense to it whatsoever, and that really annoys me. That's why I don't like that. And secondly, it's because it's so fast. And I've played in the ladder. I've played some ladder matches and stuff, and when you're playing in bronze and stuff, it's not as bad because everybody's sort of kind of on your level. As soon as you get slightly further on, like they're literally on you straight away. They're on you, and they've got a massive army, and you're dead within about 5 minutes, and you're like, oh, that was that was a quick game, and I didn't get to do anything. And so that sort of, I don't have that sort of like, I can do it a lot better than I used to, but I just don't enjoy it. It's just, for me, it's just like, it's too stressful. Whereas at least when me and my brother play, we spend, we both give each other an hour. We can build everything we want to build. So we get everything out of the game. We level up through everything. We can pick any unit that we want. So we get the full experience of the game. We get all the units. We get all the buildings. We have this pretty base. So we pretty much tick every single box that we want. And then you attack. And now, granted, it's a stressful game when you're attacking because you've got these massive armies and you're trying to break through defenses and things like that, and it can go like, me and my brother now have this thing where it's like you start chopping through trees and stuff like that, so you're just completely ignoring their thing, and you're chopping through trees, and then you're now doing
shame you can't set them on fire.
Well,
You
the thing is,
think
in Empire Empires 1, and I think in Age of Empires 2, you could destroy trees, but you can't do it in the Age of Empires 4. And so you would get, like, there's the map that we played, Hideout and stuff. And even there's one called Black Forest, which is like mainly forested, and it's just got these little alleyways that you can go down. And it's like, they're going to start. So my brother's very good at sort of like you build loads of civilians. You just build as many as you can. They get all the resources. They do all the chopping of the trees and stuff, and then you build your army afterwards and stuff because you got all the resources. But then he'll chop through. He'll get to the point where he's nearly chopping through to your center base, which you've ignored because you're busy defending the wings, and then he breaks through the middle and then has you. So I had this idea. It's like, right, I know he's going to do that. So I start counter mining, effectively counter chopping. So what I do is I chop in from the sides and then build walls in. So when he does come to the center, I can sort of kind of pincer move it and stuff. And it's worked brilliantly a couple of times, to the point actually now I think he used to win all the time, but I think I've beaten him the last 5 games, and it's just like by counter mining effectively. So he's doing this, and I'll chop through the center and stuff, and I'll get to the point where I know I can see things, so I start building loads of defenses there and stuff. And because he's already sort of engaged to that point, you just sort of hammer in, and then it's about sort of making little sort of kind of probing attacks in certain areas and stuff. And I think it's, strategically, I think for strategic thinking, I think it's better. I understand why people like the competitive side of things, because it goes very quickly. You have to really think on your feet, and it can be quite exciting to watch, especially when, because they're having to go through you have to use different combinations of guys, whereas in the game where you're having a treaty and stuff, you pretty much always use hand cannoners. You have to have a different combination of siege weapons to deal with their siege weapons and stuff, so it's like anti-siege and stuff like that. So that's where that varies and stuff, whereas hand cannoners and cavalry are generally sort of kind of your two main staples. But yeah, it's
I definitely missed as well, and I don't remember actually when we were chatting about the major changes that have happened. One major change that they didn't mention is, you remember when you used to have like all your your little your basic clubbers.
Yeah.
And then what you could do is you could click on the button and upgrade them all at the same time. That was so good. And it's not really a thing anymore.
Yeah, you don't.
How does it work now?
You don't upgrade. You just upgrade. You just sort of. So if you've got a so all your spearmen, you just research their stats, and then they go up. So you just research all their things, and then that group of guys,
they don't become like that. They're just upgrades now, rather than them actually becoming the new unit. Because in the original 2, what it used to be was you would have clubbers. You could click on the button to upgrade them all to man-at-arms, or you could buy man-at-arms. And I really like that, because you'd be walking along with just a horde of rubbish guys. You keep them safe because you knew it was cheaper to upgrade them all at once rather than buying them.
Nah, you just upgrade them and stuff. The thing is, you have sort of low-level things and stuff, so depending on what civilization you have, and, it's just starting to play. Like, I'll never be a good ladder player and stuff because I just don't have I don't know the builds. I panic too easily and stuff. I get sort of, as soon as like if those two guys attacking me, even the sort of intermediate players, and if you had started attacking as well, I'd just like, I can't deal with this, and my resources just start kind of going down and stuff. Whereas it's all about, if you watch the videos, it's all about probing attacks and just being a pain in the ass by distracting them and fucking up their economy and stuff. So that's where sort of, I suppose, the interest comes in. But I like just being able to play the game, be able to build walls, have like layers and layers. Like when me and my brother play, and you can see some of the layers, there's like 3, 4, 5 layers of walls. There's towers and castles everywhere. And it's just literally just like, it's all about trying to get through defenses and stuff like that. And it's just, glorious. I love it. But that's, is that the right way to play it? People will go, well, that's not how you, like what Sam said, that's not how you play the game and stuff. And that's why going right back to board games and playing games and stuff like that, is there a right or a wrong way to play games?
I mean, straight off the bat, one thing that I experienced quite a lot, like as someone who like mainly, especially now, mainly plays in tournaments rather than just local play for reasons that we've discussed in a previous episode. It's interesting because I've had friends who are like, I'm not going to play that game anymore. It's a dead game. And I'm like, why? We are the ones who play it. And they're so adamant that, the rules aren't going to change now. Yeah, but you can change them. Like, how did you didn't really play Old World that much, did you?
I played it once. I played it once. And
Wow. Like, in the whole time you've played games, you played...
I played
once.
Yeah,
Wow.
Warhammer Fantasy. Are we talking about?
Yeah.
I played it once, and that was because I had an Imperial army, and I had a like an introduction game to it. Because I'm into like my historical wargaming and stuff, so I was like, oh, this is a good idea. And I bought a load of Imperial guys, and I built them all. I had a massive Imperial army. I had like Karl Franz. I had loads of musketeers and stuff, and demigriffs and all this other stuff, and I just
demigriffs.
Demigriffs.
This must have been a pretty recent sort of time you played it. Demigriffs are very late in
demigriffs.
Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah, so it would have been
2014,
2013. I think is when I started building them and stuff. I was just broke up with my ex at the time, so I think I got the army from Games Workshop in Manchester and stuff. They sort of kind of like this, and then
demigriffs were good and they were gorgeous models.
Yeah, and then I just didn't. I bought loads. I made it all, and then I sold it all at a Warbit because I just wasn't playing it and stuff. Like I would love to have played it, but I just never sort of got around to it. That being said, and we're going off topic here and stuff. I've been watching a lot of the Lord of the Rings strategy game.
Really good.
Yeah, man. I have to admit, like my mate Paul's been trying to get me on it for ages, and I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I want to play another game. But I was watching some battle reports, and I was just like, yeah, these rules actually seem pretty good because you have like a not like an initiative step, but basically a priority and stuff. So they move, then you move, then the attacks alternate and stuff like that. Is that how it works?
Yeah, exactly. It's a great game because it means that we both do all our movement at the same time, etc., which is fantastic. But it also gives you that agonizing thing. So if I move this unit here, you'll move that unit there. So then if you move that unit there, which you liked in Game of Thrones, but it's not units. And that's one of the things that I need to get out of my head, especially with the tournament coming up next week.
Every single guy, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. This guy can run across that side of the board. It's absolutely fine to do so. In fact, it's a good idea to go so. When you start watching high-level plays of it, people's armies just go like that.
Yeah.
Like they just go everywhere. Basically, what it is you have a whole army of individual models, but they're deployed in war bands. Yeah. You have heroes that are pivot points. They're crucial, but they can die. Aragorn could die to a bunch of goblins, but to sort of countermand that, they have 4 different stats, basically. They've got might, which allows them to do special actions like, say, follow me and charge forward and pull people with them. You've got things like enhance your strength or make yourself better at fighting. You've got fate powers, which basically resist death. So you roll a dice and it's like an invulnerable save. But all of those are a limited pool. So it means heroes can be really significant in the game. But A, they're vulnerable, which sometimes in 40k it feels like, especially named characters, you're never going to kill them.
Yeah.
And B, it's a finite resource. They are amazing, but they won't be amazing for the whole game. So you got balance when you spend that. Yeah. And that's what I really like about it.
Yeah, so I watched them because obviously the Battle of Osgiliath box sets out, which I've asked my brother for Christmas, actually. That's like that. I was saying to him, it's like, I don't want any more plastic crap but I've got the Pelennor Fields, and I kind of like the idea of this now, so I might get a Gondorian army together and stuff. Yeah,
I gave you a whole bunch of models, or did you sell those off?
no, I've got,
Regretting it now.
I've still got the stuff you gave me and stuff, but yeah, I've got the Pelennor Fields still, so I've got that, and yeah, so
Building them all though, like, oh man, I've got so many Morannon orcs that I still need to build. Ugh.
yeah, well, I've still got some leftover what are they called, Urks from the diorama I did and stuff, so I need to give
So
them.
you've already got 3 armies for it.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I have
Who do you think
Rohirrim,
you would go then? You think you would
Gondor. I
go
think I'd go Gondor.
Gondor?
Yeah, but
It's a bit annoying then, because Pelennor Fields, you can basically ignore that because it's not going to help you.
yeah. Well, because what is it in Pelennor Fields? Is it Rohirrim?
Rohan. Yeah.
It has some Gondorians, does it?
I don't think so. I think it's got Rohirrim, Army of the Dead.
Oh, we're in there somewhere. Oh, it's here.
Or is this one of those you move upstairs?
It's at the
Now
bottom.
long OOP. Let me bring it up. What was it? Battle of Pelennor Fields box. It's funny how this nobody wanted box it, nobody wants it, and then it shoots up in value because now everyone wants it.
Show it on your screen when you.
Oh, that came out in 2018. Yeah, so it's a bunch of cavalry, a bunch of on foot, and then a bunch of ghostly dudes. So no Gondor.
Let me see.
I popped a link to it in the chat.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, you've got oh no, actually, yeah. So it literally is just. I'll push that onto screen. Oh, that's not showing up. Let me.
Sorry, Kev, didn't see you missed it. Hello.
Bro.
Do you have any games where you're where you find people are playing it in a different way to the way it's intended?
Yeah. So no, there is no Gondor. So it's literally just Rohirrim. You got some Rohirrim on foot, and then obviously the Army of the Dead. What does it have? Got Theoden. Oh, there's a Nazgul. Yeah, so I might see if I can swap my Rohirrim out for some Gondorians. Yeah, I might go Gondorian and stuff. I'm not sure. Like my brother, I don't know, get me some other things and stuff. But yeah, I like the idea of it. It looks good.
I mean, I've already got 2 armies. If you ever fancy a game,
yeah. Well, like I said,
of course I do.
it's
I went for
again,
one good and one evil.
yeah. It's it's more stuff to build, but like because my 40k sort of thing until they fix it, I'm sort of pretty much out. I'm sure they're going to bring out a new codex. They're going to bring out some new supplements coming up soon. But I reckon it's going to be like they did to the tail end of 7th, where they're going to bring out loads of cool stuff and then they're going to change it. And I reckon in 10th edition is pretty much with the release of the new Space Marine game. I reckon we're going to have 10th edition summer of next year. And I reckon it's going to be more Hero Hammer. I reckon they're going to focus it more around. I reckon they might take a bit of a leaf out of sort of Lord of the Rings and stuff, because Lord of the Rings is deemed one of the best games they've made. Just the way the way the whole thing works. I love it simply, but I like the idea of it because I hate alpha striking. I hate the fact that you move everything, shoot everything, attack with everything, because you can literally have half of your army wiped out. And that's one of the most annoying things about 40k, and has annoyed me from day dot, is the whole moving everything, attacking with everything, charging with everything and stuff. Because there's
it's a consistent pet peeve, because it's the same thing that you don't like about Zerg rushing or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
In Age of Empires.
Yeah,
so at least you're consistent.
Yeah, I just don't get it. I think if you're playing a game like that, it should be about actions and reactions. Like Dust Tactics, which is the weird World War II game, which I've loved for ages and just haven't played in a while. I've got loads of stuff, loads of stuff. I love that game because it was like chess. It's like you action, I have an action. Then you roll every turn, you roll a certain amount of dice, and then it sees if that person comes first. And I like that sort of thing. The idea of everybody getting a move, like in the apocalypse rules, everybody moves and shoots. So you shoot at the same. So you take turns, I think, to move, but you shoot at the same time, and you just put little chits down beside your guys, and then they get taken off after everybody's shot and stuff. So everybody gets to use the models they want to use and stuff. So that's the most annoying thing about 40k is you spent ages maybe painting a really cool model and stuff, and you can't use it because it's dead within the first sort of turn of the game, maybe second turn of the game, and it's like well, I can't use that.
What would you prefer? Would you prefer alternating and have to choose like in sort of in Game of Thrones, or would you like it to be like Apocalypse? Do you prefer which one would you choose?
So I like the turnabout thing in like Dust Tactics and like it's Song of Ice and Fire because it is like chess, because like you said, because it's I move one forward, then you have to go, right, well if I do that, then he's going to do this, but then I would do this, and you've got to think moves ahead and stuff. So you're sort of kind of thinking and rethinking, and I like that aspect of it because it's literally you're sort of kind of reacting to how they do it. Whereas if it's just all at once, you're just like, well, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to fudge the rules, and I'm going to do this, and everything's going to drop down here. I'm going to blast the hell out of this, and I'll win if basically 90% of the time, unless the dice fuck me and stuff. So it's not really about sort of kind of strategy and technically how it would work, and if you want more realism and stuff, because they're going to be moving and shooting at the same time as you. I think that's why people like the Horus Heresy rules, because there's reactions, so you can react to the shots and stuff. But
which feels more realistic, a unit wouldn't just stand there and do nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So
what do you feel about if we take that a step further and let's do it like reactions? For example, if someone shoots a long-range ballista at you, if they're out of your shooting range, you don't get shoot back. But if you're in your shooting range, you do get shoot back. How do you think that would work? Do you think that would work as a game? In the game we played, the one that you love over your left shoulder. Not Band of Brothers.
Oh yeah, the Company of Heroes. There's a new version of that coming out.
We both roll our dice to shoot each other at the same.
Yeah, so you do so you take turns. So it's turnabout movement. So you roll. So basically, the person who has the most assets the person with the least assets chooses to go first or second, and they can choose to go first or second, and then it's basically you've got like movement points for your entire army, so you get like these 9 little cubes, and it's up to you who gets those cubes and stuff. So you can move somebody 1 and then somebody else 2, but then you can come back, and because each person can have a maximum of 3 movement, you can move them again afterwards. But you can sort of do that to sort of see what the other person does in retaliation and stuff. And I like that. But then all the shooting is pretty much you've all moved, everything's moved, everything shoots at the same time. So you roll your dice and you just go from left to right in the board, and you put casualties down. So it's not like these things happen at the same time. So that means you're not losing units straight away. You're just like everybody gets to shoot with everything, and it's a really good idea. It's a good game. Again, it's quite straightforward. It's an RTS type sort of game. It sort of makes it out. It sort of develops it quite well for a board game as well, because you are focusing. Like when we played, you won because you managed to sit on the more valuable resource points for longer. I think I had more kills, but you would just.
I think it was a draw. I don't think I won.
No, you did. You won. You won. You had more victory points than I had.
Let me win because it was the first time playing it. It was a good game. Yeah. It was a good game. I normally need some kind of fantasy to keep me interested in anything, but it was good, solid core mechanics. I mean, I'm sure we did an episode of this when we were describing the best war game, and we realized we were describing a board game.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
But
That's it. But it's just, playing, and that's just, again, we're kind of going off point, but I guess we'll just roll with it. But you know, 40K's massive issue is the way it's played. Having everything, and
it's downtime.
yeah, and
That's the
you're
biggest
just sitting
problem.
there waiting, and it's just like I hate it. I've always hated it, and loads of people hate it, and lots of people will sort of argue against it, saying, well, then you should be smarter with your positioning and stuff. I shouldn't have to, because in certain games you will play, and the terrain will not be in your advantage and stuff, and you'll just get, it's literally going to be down. It's not going to be down to tactics or strategy. It's going to be down to luck, and you should never play a game fully that is just 100% based on luck, because it's like, well, I can't place any of my guys because it's random deployments and things like that. Well, I've got no terrain to put my guys behind, so what am I supposed to do? You're a shooty army, you're going to blast the shit out of me, or you're going to sort of do this, and there's not much I can deal with that, bar the dice rolling badly. There's nothing I can do about that and stuff. Whereas if we both move at the same time, or we take turns and points, and I can shoot one thing and you can shoot one thing, I think that's a good idea.
So your argument sort of here to compare it to the topic then is, it's not even a problem with 40K of not playing it the right way, because there is no right way. Like, for example, let's say the argument is, oh, you're supposed to always put them in cover, then you're supposed to do a bit of shooting, then you're supposed to do this. You're saying that, 40K doesn't even have that issue. It's not like, oh, I'm not following the rules.
Arguably.
But if we come back to, sorry, if we just come back around to Blood Bowl, because I think that's an easier one to get our teeth into. You said that the Wood Elf player was setting up his team wrong, or not tactically.
Yeah.
Now, what makes it wrong or not?
Well, it's not like it's not wrong to play.
Does he ever win?
Yeah.
Does he ever win?
He hasn't
or
won.
Does that tactic always fail?
He's drawn a game. The game that he drew was one of those like seat of your pants things, where the games he's won was bye games, ones where we all win because the two players aren't in the game, so you just get an automatic pass on those. But he basically did the same thing against a Nurgle player, my friend, the Nurgle player. He had all his Wood Elves on the front line, getting absolutely smashed to bits and stuff. I think he had like 4 guys left on the pitch or whatever. My other mate was winning 1-0 and was pretty happy about this because he'd done a lot of damage. And then I was sitting there, I was just like, my head in my hands, and because he was new, I was just like, dude, and I was lecturing him. I was like, dude, you need to stop doing this because you're going to get absolutely pounded. And I was like, you need to do this.
Was he having a good time, or was he having a bad time?
He didn't care. And as soon as he just sort of, and I said, and what you need to do is, because if you do this, it's -1 because of this, it's -1 because of this. You're going to need a 6 to do that. So maybe it's not a great. And just before I'd finished the sentence, he said, I rolled the dice. And he just rolled the dice and he got a 6. He just rolled it anyway, and he got a 6, and he passed the ball, and he caught it, and he scored, and I was just like, wow. And fine, that was brilliant. So, and it's not the wrong way to play. It's not as in, you can play the game that way. You can play the game as, against the rules as way as you want. It's just you're likely to not win the game if you do it the way he's doing it. So it's like, he plays the way he wants to play, but he loses a lot because he just throws his guys who aren't meant to be designed to be at the front line. He's meant to sort of, because he can dodge out of tackle zones and things like that, he doesn't do it. And he just, I think in his mind, it's like, I just want to hurt as many guys as possible, which is great because Blood Bowl, you kind of
go ogres.
Yeah, it's like I just want to hit people. And it's like me in 40K, it's like I always have this underlying sort of urge to kill things, but in 40K, you play to the mission, and the best players tend to play to the mission, and they tailor their lists to be able to make efficiencies within that mission and stuff. So it's not about killing stuff, it's about surviving enough to hold amount points and things like that. And that's the way it is. So I respect that. I just don't think 40K's a good game. I know it's I've played it for many years, but I think it's just one of those games that we've all just sort of grown up with and we're used to it, and it's like change is bad. And I was like, but yeah, but the alternative is maybe getting a better game, because if you were to think about it, and we've talked about this before, if you were to put 40k, best war games out there, 40k wouldn't be anywhere near the top for me. And I've played it the most out of all the games, but it's out of habit, not because of it's out of habit because everybody else plays it, not because I love that game. It frustrates me. It frustrates the hell out of me. I love the lore.
I want to do that.
Yeah.
For next time, can we create the tier thing, the A to F or S to F or whatever it is. Is the technology available that we could have ours side by side and we drag the same one up? So we're like, 40k, where are you putting it? Oh, I'm going to put mine in F. Well, actually, I'd put it in here.
Yeah.
Do you think we'd be able to do that? Can we achieve that technology?
I'll have a look at it and see what we can do and stuff. But yeah, it's I don't think anybody there's a lot of there's a lot of tournament players and stuff. They love 40k because they got their head around it, the way it's played. But even them, I can tell, like, there's guys from Vanguard Tactics and Glasshammer and all those other guys who sort of kind of make livings effectively out of tournament play and teaching people how to play games and doing battle reports and things like that. But there's even when I watch their TikToks and I watch their videos and stuff, there's always that sort of like thing about there's annoyance about certain things, or there's sort of like them trying to deal with broken rules effectively, or with sort of maximizing how to sort of make things more efficient because certain rules don't apply and stuff. And it's just like, oh god, we're getting spam now, Sam. They're asking us if we want to freevert girls chat here. Gonna block these guys. Block user on YouTube. You're blocked. You're blocked. There you go.
I'm blocked. Oh no.
So yeah, it's just not. It's like the lore. But the thing about 40k is because there's 3 ways to play it. Technically, the argument generally is you don't have to play competitive play. You can play match play, or you can play you cannot play match play. You can play what's it called? Crusade, or you can play open play and stuff, and that's the whole way.
2.
Yeah,
there's not 3, or there's
there's match play, open play, and Crusade and stuff. And Crusade sort of you develop and your guys build up and they get better and stuff like that. And that's a good concept. But tournament
what
plays.
Is the equivalent then? If we try and bash 40k into comparing it to the Age of Empires situation. So the first thing is the sort of the delay, like the treaty makes it an official gameplay rule for something that probably originally didn't start as official gameplay. So it is now technically official gameplay. So
it's not official because it's a mod. The treaty is a mod, so it's not official.
Oh, even in the one we were playing.
Yeah, it's a mod. It's a mod. So like mods, but the thing is then because
mod is the equivalent of us coming to agreement, going, we're playing a narrative play match.
Yeah.
So we're going to follow this rule, and this rule.
Yeah, yeah.
So it does exist in wargaming. It's I would say it's much rarer though. It's pretty rare that you have. I suppose other missions still. There used to be in fantasy. You used to have like, this is the scenario. You're this lone warband. There's unlimited goblins coming in.
Yeah.
You got to keep fighting them. Do you still have those in 40k?
Yeah. So you have those missions and stuff, and I think like they do push them. They have these sort of kind of specific missions. There's different like that. If you look in all the rule books, they've got like they have mission games and they have sort of kind of competitive games and stuff like that, which is fine. The idea is good, and the fact that it's open to playing lots of different types of thing is fine. But competitive play is broken, and it's just like no, I lied. It's not competitive play. The game is broken, and it's bad. It's not a great game.
How is
a great game, but it's not.
Would you say Age of Empires, when people do like a Zerg rush, is broken? Is that broken in the same way that you say 40k is?
No, because what you have with 40k is, and you do get a bit of this with I love Sam's background there. It's very board game related. We've got a little deer and a little tree and some rabbits on the
biggest transfers I've ever had to do. I
yeah.
absolutely hate doing transfers and models, and these are 6 foot tall transfers.
Yeah. But yeah, so Age of Empires and 40k have some similarities in that you have you have um races or nations within in the Age of Empires which have to be altered every patch and stuff because some of them become too powerful and they become a bit too sort of hard to play. Like the Chinese got nerfed recently because they were just winning everything. But it's not as bad as the difference between it and 40k is that you can still win pretty much with any nation if you know how to play it properly and stuff. There's no sort of like massive advantage. There's certain maps and stuff where you may be at a disadvantage, but as long as you play it properly, you're gonna you could win with any nation and stuff. 40k is because they load heavy on new factions and stuff, and you can see this by the meta. The meta is literally you look at all the meta watches and stuff, all the new codexes are at the top, and now people will argue that it's like, yeah, but it's a new race, everybody likes buying them, so that's why there's more of them. It's like, yeah, but they're buying them and they're winning with them and stuff, and it's like, so the percentage is still a lot higher, and it's always the new races, and that's because they want to sell them, and then they come in with these new races, and then they find they nerf them afterwards after they've sold them, so they're going, oh, well, we'll bring in the really heavy rules. Everybody's like, these rules are broken. These ones are really sort of mad. We're going to go for these. They get them because I'm the same. If they brought out a new Space Wolf Codex with like Wolfen being back to their old days and stuff like that, my urge to be like, oh my God, they're amazing again. I want to go and get loads of them because that sort of is a part of you that's in you. And you get the new codexes that do it all the time. New units, new rules, things that basically break the game, break the balance of the game, and then they go, okay, we better nerf these guys, bring them down, but then that just sort of kind of knocks everything out of kilter, and because
in a way, yeah.
And it's just like and it's sort of compounded by the fact that you have a rule set that is based on I move, you move. Sorry, I based on I do everything, then you do everything, and there's no sort of like turnabout sort of way to deal with things, and in my mind, it's just never. And I've been saying this since day one. Like I've always had an issue with moving everything, shooting with everything, and combat with everything.
You kind of moved on to a slightly different topic there. If we come back to sort of rules, it's interesting because what is one thing that people very much are hating on about video games at the moment? There's a little phrase that people are hating on: games as a
no idea
live service.
Okay,
have you heard this sort of term floating around?
No.
So basically, the idea of it is things like when you have Hearthstone, and maybe a particular deck is running away with it. What they want is they want it to be nerfed straight away. They want it to be changed. Now, people hate as a live service because certain games, to me, seems madness to include it. Single player games, for example. Why would they need to be a live service?
Yeah.
But this is an interesting phenomenon, and we can actually see live service further back than just the modern era. If we go back just a little bit to floppy disks and CDs, your game had to be shipped complete and it had to be working because there was no such thing as a day one patch. You couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But the other thing that you couldn't do is you couldn't do balancing patches. If you messed up and one of your factions was way stronger than another, that was it. You were absolutely stuffed on that. Whereas now, even things like Elden Ring. In Elden Ring, they're updating the power of weapons. Which to me seems madness in a one-player game, but the point is it has little PvP sections, so that's realistically what they're going to do. And what the nice thing is they've actually done is now there's two different sort of trees now. It took them several patches to do this, but now there's a tree for single player, so you can still have your stupidly overpowered weapon, and now there's the tree for PvP. You don't really realize that that's what's happening, but every single weapon now has two profiles. I cannot imagine the work that went into that.
Yeah.
But the question is what would you give up for 40k to be like that? Because I know I've definitely been pissed off when I've bought like the Tau Codex. And the guy's going, "Oh, make sure you download the 15-page errata," and I've been like, why did I buy the book then? If you told me that, why is there not just like an app? But there is an app now, but nobody wants to pay for it.
This is
but
it.
It feels like they're moving towards it.
This is Games Workshop. This is bad practice. This is I think they're being, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but it just makes sense for them. Their model, their sort of kind of, what's the word for it?
Continuous
sales model. How to deal, the way they do it, it just makes sense to sort of, because they know their customer base, and it's not their, and I don't, and part of me doesn't overly blame them, because they're just doing it. They need to sell them. That's what they want to make profit, and they know how to do it. Now I think they have a responsibility, as any company should do, to kind of think about the sort of, their customers' health, mental health, and sort of ability to build these things and buy these things. And if you're perpetually foisting addictive materials onto them, then there's a problem. And I just think that they are actively doing this where they're overpowering, and they did it too much with the Leagues of Votan. Yeah, where it got to the point where everybody was up in arms about that. Like, everybody was up in arms about it because they over egged it that time. And then they had to do it. And in my mind, it's just like, you shouldn't be doing that. If you bring out rule-breaking rules, you need to be able to go back through everybody else's codex and update certain things so they can deal with that situation. But they're not going to do that.
Interesting thing. But they have, in a way, moved towards that. So the app, did you pay for the app?
No.
I didn't either. Yeah. However, the app could have been that solution that they were looking for. They could have made more money because they could have been taking £10 out of our pocket every single month for people that care about it. But they could also have been appeasing us by updating the codexes. But the funny thing is, and I could be wrong, because maybe it was just I was using it wrong, which is entirely plausible. But when I bought the codexes, I had to put in a code to unlock my codexes. Yeah. What I couldn't work out is, do you have access to all the codexes if you're paying your £10 a month?
No.
I don't think you did.
No.
You started to pay for it. So I think that's the clinch pin. Yeah. Either the app has to update, and maybe you can still buy the codex separately, in which case they win both times over. But the app has to update. And this is what I mean by when I was talking about a live service. Video games do that. They're constantly patching stuff. You don't need to keep track of it. Why couldn't they do that with the app? Why couldn't it be a live service on the app?
They could do, but they're not going to do that because it's going to cost them money. Because why would
making more money from the ad than the app?
I don't know, because people because you've got like Battlescribe, which is free, and you just have to wait like a couple of weeks more before anything's updated on it.
There's no way they couldn't bring their hammer down on it.
They've tried. But they can't. How can they? So they think about.
Is they're sharing material? The only way you could have got that.
So why do you think they've renamed all of the factions?
So they can copyright them.
Yeah, exactly. So all they need to do, all they need to do on Battlescribe is name them Space Marines.
Yeah, but if you force them to do that, because Battlescribe a lot of the time, like the people that own Battlescribe don't give a hoot. Like, they very rarely do like the patches and stuff like that. It's the community that writes the updates. I've done updates myself for it, and you have to code it all yourself.
Yeah, but it's like they don't have to, because the reason they've changed it to Astartes and things like that, and like Drukhari and things like that, because it can be copyrighted, and so other people can think. But you can still use Space Marines, and you can still use Orcs, and you can use these, because these are all things that are, so that's why there's a big thing about 3D printing and stuff. You can still use those, and that's why they've moved, like, and that's what they did with Age of Sigmar, because one of the big things about fantasy battle was you could, in theory, use third-party models, because having a bunch of guys with muskets, or having a bunch of guys with great swords, or having a bunch of orcs and things like that, you could get from anywhere. So they wanted it so they could have, a monopoly on that thing, on that name, so they could protect that name. I understand that, but it's like they're not going to go and update things because it means less money for them, even if it was an app that they get
It wouldn't
£10.
mean less
It
because
would.
exactly because
It
they
would.
would still release codexes, so you would still need to buy the new codex when it came out. But the point is, you're paying £10 a month to get an app which
Okay.
is always up to date.
So all right. So
Because
you
then they could make mass changes.
okay. So you've got a business which is selling an app. So you've got your app. Everybody's paying £10 a month for that app, and then they're getting the codex, which comes out sort of
Once a year.
yeah,
They're
and
fast now.
and
Once every 18
yeah,
months.
and all the armies are relatively balanced. Everything's sort of kind of quite balanced and stuff.
Mhm.
You're happy with this faction. You might have another faction just because you want to sort of have a certain faction. You've maybe got one or two. Or you have the other model where, fine, you might not be getting, you might get the odd £10 a month for sort of an app, but you're then getting multiple codexes with lots of additional things, and you're sure as fire going to have that the new codex is going to be stupid overpowered, and that's going to mean you got a better chance of winning games. So you're going to jump ship from that last thing because you know that your army has no chance, so you'll go to the next army. So not only are you buying books, you're buying new models, and you're gonna especially in the competitive scene, and you see this in all the war boots and stuff like that, how many armies come through because they want the new army, and there's so many, and you see it on Facebook all the time. All of the guys I know who do competitive play, as soon as there's a new codex coming out, that army that they used to have is on for sale, and they're trying to get a new one and stuff. And it's like, so you're making so much more money by having an overpowered codex because people are going to jump on that, especially in and it's led very much by like your average Joe who's playing 40k play doesn't give a shit, and so they'll just sort of kind of play as it is. But because competitive play, especially now, is a big thing and they're really pushing it, they're running a bit of a fine line. They're acting like they're sort of kind of meta watch, and we're trying to sort of make sure everything's balanced. But
Yeah, because they do a weekly post.
yeah, but they're balancing after they've been released. So they're releasing broken codexes with broken armies that are stupidly overpowered, that are winning all the time. And don't get me wrong, fine, you will find like there's lots of, especially some of the really high end competitive players and stuff, will find ways around with other armies to maybe eke a win, but you've got to be really, 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 really good to sort of tweak something to make sure it sort of is competitive enough. But it's going to be a struggle, and I guarantee a lot of it's down to chance that they've won those games. But and the stats prove this. Every time there's a new codex comes out, they're at the top of the list, and they're at the top of the list by a substantial amount. I'm a Space Wolf player. I think that we're at 43% win ratio or something like that, whereas some of the...
It's always a shame, because where do these sort of stats come from? That's the
well,
sad thing.
it's basically, it all comes down to all the competitive play. It's all how many people played those factions in competitive tournaments and how many times did they win. So that's based down to that. Now, Games Workshop have stated that the reason Space Marines are so low is because too many people play Space Marines, so it skews the figures. I'm calling bullshit on that. It's not that. It's just they're saying it's because people aren't good enough. It's not that at all. It's because they have rules that break. They have new codexes that come out. Everybody sees the shiny new thing with shiny new rules, shiny new models, and they go out and they buy it because they want these new things and they want that competitive edge, especially in competitive play.
This is the thing they're missing, and this is why it makes it so difficult to compare it to Age of Empires. Because in Age of Empires, it has a very important third dimension or fourth dimension, whatever you want to call it, and it's the player. So they can not only see all the faction win rates, but they can calculate it based on the player's win rate, which is so important. For example, as you correctly said, the competitive players move to the latest faction, whilst the loyalist players stay with their same army, and that means that you've got average players playing on the factions that are, not the latest shiny shit.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is that they're not looking at that statistic. Whether they have it or not, I don't know. I'd imagine it's pretty difficult to sort of collate. Although in this age of data, you'd hope that they're moving towards it. But
yeah, and it's one of those things. It frustrates me. I
How
don't
balanced
big.
is NAF?
I don't. I
Sorry,
don't
how balanced is Blood Bowl? Because Blood Bowl has that huge organization behind it in
like
NAF.
there. I think there are certain things, but it's not because there's not loads of rules in the grand scheme of things, and the rules are pretty generic. Like each sort of race has their own sort of specific rules, but I've played most races now, bar the sort of undead ones. I think I haven't played undead, and uh,
Ogres,
I haven't played ogres and
Dryads.
stuff. I haven't played ogres, but I've played elves, I've played dwarves, I've played Skaven, I've played Nurgle, I've played Corn. Oh, actually, no, I haven't played Corn yet. And so far it doesn't say like I don't think I'm a human team, and the humans are just very average. People don't generally pick humans as a competitive team, but I'm doing all right with them and stuff. They're still playable, and that's the whole thing. You can pick any faction in Blood Bowl and still have a chance of winning because it's more about, as much as certain ones may have a little bit more of an edge, like dwarf teams win a lot because they're obnoxious and everybody hates them, but you can still beat them, and there's a good chance you could beat them if you're a good player and stuff. Whereas in 40k, it's so convoluted and so sort of dense and they're adding so much new stuff in that everybody just goes for the competitive edge, new codex, new rules, and my Space Wolves do not have a chance. And it was because the last tournament I did, I lost 3 games out of 5. The 2 games that I won were close games, were against similar sort of types of armies and stuff, which were sort of but the games I lost were at the time when the Tau had just come out. And the Tau came in. Not only did they charge me, a Space Wolf player, but they fucking blew me off the board with their, with like no invulnerable. I had loads of what's it called, Terminators and stuff, and obviously guys with storm shields and things. Didn't matter because they were just getting blasted off by like ignoring invulnerable saves and the amount of shots and things. And then obviously they went down, and then Tyranids came up, and then all these other things. And it's just like there's it. I understand why they do it. They're trying to sell models. They're trying to become profitable. They want to be big and profitable and stuff. But they kind of the insidious part of it for me is they know that players don't know any different and will just sort of carry on as they are because that's all
do
they
know though. I don't think that's fair to say. I think the vast majority of players do know. It's just we like the lore, we like the models,
Yeah,
and
and
more
that's it.
importantly, you can get an opponent for it.
Yeah,
But this
exactly.
is
And
the
that's it.
funny thing is,
That's it.
what percentage of games do you love of 40k versus other game systems?
Well, I don't understand. Say that again.
Like, say you play 10 games, or say you play 100 games. What percentage of those
All right.
games of 40k are you going to enjoy versus another game system?
Even when I'm playing my friends and stuff, there's always a bit of like I play my friend Necron Stuart. I haven't played him in a while. But Necrons go through stages of becoming super OP and stuff. Like when they had the Transcendent Satans in 6th edition, which was grim because they were just throwing D weapons everywhere, and it was nigh on impossible to beat them. And the only time I beat them was because my codex got buffed the fuck afterwards. He got nerfed and I got buffed, and I was running around with 4, and I did what your competitive player would do. And this wasn't a competitive game, this was just us, and I went, oh, my codex has come out and stuff. I'm not going to just choose a fluffy army because he beats me all the time and stuff, so I'm going to use the army that's going to be able to beat him. So here's four units of Wolfen, and for every unit of Wolfen during 6th edition, I think it was 7th edition when this happened, each unit of Wolfen, you get the roll in the Wolfen table, and you get a +1 for each unit. Oh, that means I'm getting automatic double moves for my Thunderwolf Cavalry. Oh, that's right, I'm charging you turn 1 with my Thunderwolf Cavalry and knocking you off the board. And I absolutely thrashed him, like, for the first time ever. And it wasn't because I'm a better player, because he's a lot better than me. It's because I had a fucking broken codex, and I just went boom, 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 dead. And it was as simple as that. It was just like and then we had another one where knights the other time I beat him was because knights came out. So I just brought loads of knights, and I stomped on them because knights were broken, and I proved the point that I could buy wins against his team. Now I hate doing that. And it's the same like in Age of Empires 4. Me and my brother would play it, and I was always playing the English, and he'd play the Abbasids, and he'd always beat me because the Abbasids are broken when it comes to long games like we play. They're not.
What is the difference when it comes to like enjoyment though? Like, because the thing is where you thrash me on those Age of Empire games, I enjoyed the 30 minutes, 45 minutes of building up my wee base. I didn't care about the last 10 minutes when you wiped me off the board. But that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Like, what percentage of 40k do you actually enjoy?
I enjoy games that are close. For me, a game I don't enjoy.
But do you enjoy the? Sorry, what I mean is not as in how many games do you play, how many of those games did you enjoy, because that's based on the end result.
Yeah.
I had a close game. What percent? So, Age of Empires,
Yeah.
I enjoyed the full hour of just having fun, building stuff. Last 10 minutes when I got creamed, didn't really bother me that much because it was 10 minutes, but I enjoyed a full hour.
Yeah.
So, in 40k, 2 hours, 3 hours, easy on a game. How much of that game are you enjoying against, for example, your friend when you didn't have a broken codex? Or are you like basically miserable right from when you put your models
because
on the
when I'm
table?
playing sort of like when I play him, when we were playing him, and I would just play Space Force all the time, and I was getting beaten all the time, and I carry on playing, and it wasn't because I wouldn't enjoy it. I got enjoyment out of trying new things and sort of like thinking about the army and stuff, and that my enjoyment was sort of like I'm gonna try this. Now it wasn't hard. It was pretty horrible when he just kind of went, yeah, de-weapon, they're all dead, and this isn't working. So I'd try and sort of go. My enjoyment was coming from list building to try and sort of kind of work away around his broken list. And it was just
to me that's wrong. You should be enjoying the actual game.
oh yeah, you should do.
And that's when it comes to it is, are you playing the game wrong? Should you be playing the game differently? Or because I know like mainly your experience is with 40k, but this is what I'm trying to ascertain in terms of
Yeah, well,
miniature games.
I don't
Like Blood Bowl. How much of a match of Blood Bowl do you enjoy?
I've never had a bad game of Blood Bowl ever. I've never come out of a bad game of Blood
So
Bowl.
you say 100%
Yeah,
of
I
the
love.
whole match you enjoy.
I've never had a bad game of Blood Bowl, and like this is talking like I've got really fond memories of Blood Bowl when I was a kid because it was one of the first board games that I got. I've still got the version that I bought when I was a kid here. With the polystyrene boards, the second edition of Blood Bowl. I remember going out to buy it. I remember playing it with my brother. And then when the third editions and the fourth edition came out, I used to play that in school. I used to sort of play it in university. And then obviously the newer version came out now. I play it now, and I used to play it on the computer, and I've never had a bad game. It's frustrating. Don't get me wrong. You can be frustrating. You get sort of some really bad dice, and like my brother's thrown his toys out of the pram a few times when the dice just haven't been going his way, but that's just the way it is. But I've never had a bad game of Blood Bowl, even when I've lost. It's upsetting when you lose guys, and I've played it online on Blood Bowl 2, and I've had my team just get so many casualties, and that could be really frustrating. But it's just that is very much down to dice odds over bad game. It's a good game. I enjoy it, and so GamesWorks have the ability. It's just when it comes to 40k, they know that they've got a captive audience and they can take advantage of that. And it's just like,
is there a way that you could play 40k that would make you actually enjoy the matches? Like, would it be you would have to like break the rules and like make up a treaty rule where, for example, your mission objective is I want to kill that Satan of the Deathbringer?
No, because
like, do you think that kind of thing?
No, because I don't like scenarios in 40k. I like a semi-competitive mode to it. I like to be able to be challenged, but I like the idea of having a chance. I don't. Sorry, man. I'm gonna have to go. My dog's kicking off here. Bear with me a moment. You can talk. I'll just my dog's kicking off.
So the big question is it 40k or is it Matt? That's the difficult thing about it. There are a lot of game systems that I've played where I've just enjoyed it all the way through. Like Warcry, if you want to go with Games Workshop again. That game I absolutely love. I think there's different kinds of games. I think you've got games where you've got games that are hyper competitive, and you've got what I like to call beer and pretzel games. War Cry for me is definitely a beer and pretzels game. Like you can draw these cards called like the mission deck is just completely random, and there's also like a bonuses one. And I'm sure I've talked about it before, but my hero pulled out the card which meant he had double movement, and my opponent pulled out the objective of kill this, and he hit his little peon guy. My guy could fly. I flew over and won in one turn. But I think maybe that's the aspect of sometimes there are games that are literally different types of games, and I think 40k falls under the hardcore, whereas Warcry falls under the beer and pretzel. They're completely different games.
Yeah,
Where does Blood Bowl fall on that spectrum? Would you say it's
I'd say it's beer and pretzels.
right now?
It is competitive, and there is like you do get a lot of people who get very passionate about it. Like if you go in the Blood Bowl like groups on Facebook and stuff, people get really pissed off about certain things. It's always about fouling. It's always about things like this. Like for me, if you just take it's not a broken game. There are I'm sure there are like I've not played it for too long in the recent iteration. I'm sure there's certain races that come out that can probably be broken and stuff like that. But in general, I think there's a challenge there, and you have the ability to win, irrespective of what team you have. You're not going to be at a massive disadvantage. It's a rock paper scissors thing, so certain teams will be better against other teams and blah blah blah. But in general, you have a chance of winning, and it being as long as you're against a half decent player, a competitive game, that is something you can enjoy. 40k, it's like, for me to enjoy it, I would have to be playing against somebody I knew I had a chance of winning against. I don't like, I don't give up easily and stuff, so I'll carry on sort of trying to work out ways to beat things. And it's not like I didn't enjoy playing Stuart and stuff. And it was every time I played him, I knew his codex wasn't like he was using broken units like the Transcendent Satan, but I thought, well, if I do it this way, I can make it. Maybe I can beat him and stuff, and it didn't work like that. But with 40k, it's very much a case of if you have a low tier codex, unless you're playing against a really bad player, you're going to lose. It's going to be very, or if the dice aren't on, unless the dice are against them and stuff, and you're against a good player, there's not a good chance of winning and stuff. So when I turned up against, I remember I was playing the Necron player at the tournament, and I turned up to the table, and he said, "Right, I've got a Transcendent Satan, I've got a Void Dragon, and I have the Nightbringer," and I was just like, right, and I guess I can't do more than 3 wounds on each of these units, per phase. Yep, and I'm assuming they ignore invulnerable saves. Yep, and I was like, can I just give in now? And I was like, because I knew I wasn't going to win that game. One, because I'm a close combat army, so I'm not going to have a lot of shooting, so I can't get 3 wounds off you in shooting. I had like a whirlwind or something like that, so it's just like, what am I supposed to do? And it's like people go, well, you should have a balanced army, but Space Wolves aren't meant to be balanced in their army. They're meant to be a close combat army. That's what they're designed for. So why would you have shooting? Lots of shooting, because it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. So it's like, all right, fine. So I don't have a lot of shooting, so I can't take wounds off there. I can do it in close combat. A psychic phase. Oh, I had 1 psyker. All right, so I didn't spam psychers because we don't have loads of great psychic stuff. So I was like, all right, fine. So I can do it in the close combat.
When they blow up your own army, that was beautiful. I'll remember that forever.
3, so I could do 3 wounds, and then I charge my sort of kind of I charge my cavalry into them to sort of kind of bog them down. They're all dead because this is strength this, and this is ignoring invulnerables. And I'm just like, and I knew how it was going to go. It wasn't even close. And I could have given up that game at the start because I didn't enjoy it at all, because I knew it was just like, I had some shooting and stuff. I think I had long fangs. I had some long fangs and stuff. So I had some stuff, and I was trying to play to the mission. I was like, right, so I'm going to ignore the killing of stuff. I'm just going to try and survive. If I can survive and get these things. But it just, it wasn't going to work. It was the same with the toy player. As soon as I turned up and he showed me his list and stuff, I was just like, should I just quit? Should I just quit now? And when he charged me, with his fucking preachers, I was just like, I'm just gonna give up now, man. I just like this is fucking
Charged in combat by
yeah.
Tau.
And then it was just yeah, and it's sort of stuff like that, and yeah, in the end, if you're playing competitive games, you have to accept that people are going to pick the best codex that they have, best units that they have, and maximize things. Those are one of those things. So I have nothing against the competitive scene. You do what you can to win the tournament. That's what you're there for. If you like, I've played against a guy who he must have, I can't remember what blog he wrote, but he basically wrote for some gaming thing, and he had a massive moan about the tournament because he turned up with a foot slogging Death Watch army, and he'd painted it nicely, and everybody was rolling up with knights when they were the greatness, the knights and things like that. And he got absolutely creamed, and he had a massive moan about this. He was being really arsey with me. I was running knights at the time. Like, I very seldom veered off Space Wolves. I did Space Wolves and Custodians for a bit, and I did Custodians once. And the one time I tried knights, because I was just like, I've got knights and I want to use them and stuff, and I bought them before the Super Codex came out and stuff. I bought them when they came out in like 7th edition, whenever they came out then. So it's like, I kind of want to use them. And he just moaned at me. He got really arsey. I didn't enjoy the game because he was getting beaten and he was just moaning about it. And in my mind, it's like, you're in a tournament, man. Why would you pick unless if you want to come to a tournament, play a fluffy army, lose a couple of games, and then play people on your same level, I can understand that. But then playing a fluffy army and then expecting to win is a completely different thing. So I understand if you're playing in a tournament, you pick the best army you're going to pick. You get the best rules you're going to get. You do the best thing because they give you a chance of winning the game. But that doesn't mean that the game isn't broken, because it is. Outside of that, it's like, you shouldn't have to. As a player, I should be able to have any faction that I want and have a good chance, not just a lucky chance, a good chance of winning. But there's not that. There isn't that. And if people argue with me about it, I don't. You could win with like Blood Angels, sort of win now and again and stuff like that. They're sort of kind of the Space Marines ones that are kind of doing slightly better than the others. But it's not. They're not winning enough, and they're winning because they were lucky, or they sort of the other person was unlucky, and they've sort of had everything's gone their way. But in general, you're not winning because you've got a good codex and stuff, a good balanced codex, and it was just, you've out-generaled them. You've won because you've got the advantage. And that, to me,
I think that sadly does bring us to the sort of the conclusion, though, that even in 40k, in a bad game, there is a wrong way to play. And by the sounds of it, the wrong way is if you're not choosing the competitive army, you shouldn't be playing in tournaments.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong, but for example, me saying, walls not being able to be blown up in Age of Empires 2 is bullshit. Age of Empires 4, sorry.
You can,
but
with siege engines.
The point is I enjoyed the way I played the game. So I think that even if I lose, in a way, I'm playing it correctly. In 40k, though, if you're not enjoying the game, then you're playing it incorrectly. Whether or not it's the game's fault is kind of irrelevant, because that's the way the game is. I don't like the way that taxes work, personally, but at the end of the day, that's the way they work. So I think there can be a wrong way to play it. There is a right way and a wrong way to play it.
Yeah, I don't.
It's not fair. It's not right.
I think
it is true.
For the definition, there isn't a. You can play a game whatever way you want to play it, depending on what makes it fun for you. I just think there's specific instances where, for example, when you were playing against me, you have to do certain things or you're playing it wrong. So you're not building up your economy fast enough, not leveling up things is the wrong way to play, because you're going to lose.
Not buying the latest codex tactics is the wrong way to play because
Yeah,
you're going to lose.
Yeah, exactly. So
So it might not be fair, but at the end of the day, if you have fun doing whatever you're doing, like the Wood Elf player putting his models all up front, if he's having fun, who are we to say he's playing it wrong? He's playing it more importantly than we are. I think we can definitely, because both you and I are heavily competitive, I think we can definitely do that. Like, for example, it was not wrong for me to play my Iron Joys where I brought 14 lists. It meant I was probably going to lose, but it wasn't wrong. I was having a great old time. I had 100 models on the field, and you were looking at it going, shit.
Did you win that game, actually? Did you? I think you won anyway. I think you won because
I think I just bogged you down with models.
Yeah,
I thought that was when you won.
I think I don't know if did I win the cavalry battle one. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But yeah, but it's it's like there's no I think there's no wrong way to play a game. Even if there's rules written, I think if it's just down to you can't turn around to somebody and say, but I enjoy
cheating.
It.
Cheating is the wrong way. Let's quick hastily throw it out. If you're a hacker or cheating, then you're bullshit.
Yeah, oh yeah, big time. But playing the game, like, so Dungeons and Dragons, there's rules there, but I don't like our Dungeons and Dragons campaign. We sort of vaguely use the rules and stuff. We use sort of kind of the sort of basic premise of it, but there's a lot of fudging of dice and, making stuff up on the fly because it just makes things go the way, and everybody enjoys it that way. But I don't think that's a wrong way to play it, even though there are rules. Oh, you can't do that. Well, who says I can't do it? I'm enjoying it. They're enjoying it. That's what homebrew's all about. And it's the same like in 40k or anything. Maybe you don't play it that way. Maybe you do. You change things slightly. So yeah, that's fine. You should be able to do things. But when it comes to competitive play and playing certain ways, I guess there is a wrong way or a right way if you want to win the game. If you want to ruin the game, there is a wrong way to play. You have to do certain things. You have to accept that. But then that's
I think it's more important to have fun. It's more important.
It is.
Even over winning, it's more important to have fun.
It is. And I honestly, losing to me is not an issue. I think my brother gets a lot more frustrated than I do when it comes to losing. But for me, if I lose and it's been a good game, it doesn't bother me. Like I've lost my rag a couple of times with my brother, not because it was his fault. Well, it was because the game was just so bad, and I lost so badly that I didn't enjoy it. It was just sort of like I just got absolutely creamed and ran over and stuff.
Are you using Tabletop Simulator or are you using the actual official game? For Blood Bowl. Sorry, I thought we were talking about Blood Bowl.
For Blood Bowl, I would just say Age of Empires, but it's anything. We use Tabletop Simulator for we use Tabletop Simulator
really hard to do your stats and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we do Tabletop Simulator for games where my brother's playing because he's obviously in Northern Ireland and can't do that. Which is, I think, it's a good thing to encourage people to play, because trying to get people to play in person is like herding cats anyway. But if you've given them the option that you know what, this week you could play online and stuff, and because we've done that, I think we've got a lot more games out of it, and people actually kind of like using Tabletop Simulator. We've had times, like 3 or 4 times, where you've had the 2 players playing and then 4 people listening in and watching them play on Tabletop Simulator. They were like, we had the thing where we were all painting models and making models while watching watching the sort of kind of the Blood Bowl game and stuff, and it was it was good fun, and I think that's a
made
good
you
idea.
paint your own Blood Bowl.
Yeah, no, so
But anyway, on that note, I can hear screaming. There's no way that's not coming through the headphones. So, yeah, play games however you like, as long as you're not cheating and you're both having fun and it's legal. But thank you so much for listening to this episode of Hobby Hoarders Podcast. We'll be back here in 2 weeks.
Nope,
and hopefully we'll be doing...
No, we won't.
No, we won't.
No, we won't.
We'll let you know when we're back.
It's in the new year, because I'm out of action until... let me just see. I'm out of action until week commencing the... Let's see it. So we'll be back on the 15th of January. So,
well, have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Special New Year, whatever you celebrate. But from Matt and myself, ta-ra!
Bye!